Hello, everyone. I'm going to wait a little while. You know what this is like. You know the drill. Since COVID, we're getting pretty good at this. I call it the elevator moment. You know, when you're in the elevator and you don't know when to talk to someone or what to do. It's one of those moments while we let you all come on in. So we're sorry we're a little bit late. We're 3 minutes late because, as my son would say, we're having a fat yarn, having a big talk about what we're going to talk about, and obviously I'll introduce our guests shortly, but a pretty special time. So I'm just going to wait another little while everyone gets online or get up to wherever, and I'm sure I'll be probably told to get underway. But Sarah, you amazing human being, how are you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, all right. I'm tired actually. I mean, it's been a big week, but we've been going since Saturday morning. And it's been a big week. I'm tired, but I'm doing good.
Cool. And the beautiful Dr. Fiona.
Hi, JK. How are you doing?
You know, I'm okay actually. I'm really excited about running this because there's a few questions I want to ask you both. So I'm feeling okay, but I don't really like to say that because I'm feeling sorry for everyone else. Does that make sense? Like I'm sort of bleeds for what's happening to our community. But I've been very, very lucky. So I feel a bit guilty about being lucky. I don't know if that's a real thing.
I think it's hard, isn't it?
It is a thing.
It's a thing, definitely. But that feeling is also can sometimes spur you into action. It can be a good driver to get out and do something for someone else, you know, if you feel that.
Okay, well, I might get started. Welcome, everybody. I'm sure there'll be more people coming in. Sarah Page from the Kindness Collective. It's the first time we've met today. We had a webinar engagement lined up, but it got cancelled because the Queen passed, unfortunately.
Rest her soul.
So amazing work for our community, of which Sarah's going to talk to us about. Right in the thick of it at the moment, you can see the boxes and Legos and everything behind, so we'll dive into that a wee bit. And the amazing Dr. Fiona Crichton, who works and is a constant for me when I need to understand my own mental health and the mental health of the community and how we should deal with moments. So I'm going to dig into some questions. If you want to drop some questions into the Q&A, please do that. I'll try and ask the experts on your behalf. But Sarah, tell me a little bit about your week as we know it. So we're in a crisis. Yeah. Just as a bit of a heads up, this is how I see it at the moment. Shit, COVID was a pain in the ass. We finally get out of it. Everyone was sick and tired and burnt out going into Christmas. Then it rains for the last month, and then we have incredible, never to be seen before flooding. So if I could swear, I probably would, but I won't. But how are you right in the thick of the community? And I know you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so we're a charity that every day of the year we offer community partners from all around the country essentials and what we call moments of joy to support families in need. And this week has been something else. It's I've actually never seen anything like it. I've never seen such an outpouring of community spirit, but we've also had so many people needing support. So I think it's been a really strange week, and that, you know, it happened on Friday night, and my husband and I looked at each other and went, you know, what are we going to do? And we woke up on Saturday morning and just started getting food to people that we work with. And the last, I don't know, even it's Thursday, right? So we've been going since Saturday, and it's been big. Yeah, it's been big, and there are a lot of families affected and a lot of community partners are overwhelmed. Yeah.
And obviously with the great work you're doing in the community, has the government reached out and given you some sponduli to help out? Have you had the visits and the photos, or no?
Look, no, we haven't. And look, we are, in terms of charities, we are smaller than some of the others, except we're one of the ones that's been widely publicised as being a distribution centre and a drop-off point and place to go. And so we've had people reach out this week, community partners that we don't usually work with, but lots of other social services, and we've had people in need knocking on the door. And, you know, we usually don't take private requests, but we have this week because I'm not going to turn away a mum who needs food. And no, we haven't had any government funding, and we haven't had anyone apart from Chloe, the MP of Auckland, has been messaging and just checking in that we're okay, but we've not seen anybody else. I've had no one ring me. So I'm pretty disappointed, actually. I would have expected someone to get in touch. And I think I've seen a lot of other charities and a lot of community groups doing the heavy lifting this week, and it's a bit confronting and a little bit disappointing that we're having to.
Well, the Kindness Collective, so anyone who's a politician out there, pick up the phone, get some money, because that's the direct line to our community. But yeah. Dr. Fiona, I wanted to talk to you about the psychological side of it, because I think there's some learnings that we need to take from Christchurch, right? So what are some of the emotions that the people who are suffering, when your house is flooded, you know, you're in real crisis, what's your head going through? Is it fight and survive? And what about the people that aren't affected? So let's put, if you're affected first, what you should be feeling, how does it feel, how can you deal with your emotions?
I love that you brought up Christchurch. We have a lot of learning, but we don't always remember what that is when we're in the thick of it. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today was, what do we do when we're suddenly in a state of emergency? Given Sarah and I and JK, we were talking about this before, is that it can be quite triggering right now. I don't know if many of you might have found your children were asking questions when the beep came through to say we were in state of emergency. It reminds us of a time where we were in lockdown. So for many children, that was their question. Are we going back to lockdown? What does this mean? So we have got, all of us, a lot of emotions when we hear that screeching noise. And what I want to remind people is that when you're in that fight or flight, when you're suddenly realizing state of emergency, what does it mean? Is that your brain will be a little bit cluttered. It's hard to remember stuff. So one of the things that we can do when we are in that initial stage of trying to figure out what to do is, we've got so much information coming at us that sometimes it's a good idea to go the old-fashioned route and write stuff down. So I've come up with the walk and talk acronym, and we're just going to talk about walk right now, which is about when you're in the thick of it. If you found that it was really hard to hold information, if you were going like, I heard something on national radio and I read something online and I heard my neighbors say, you're not alone. That is really normal. So what I would suggest is, everyone, let's go back to having a pen and a paper and put something down, because then we can remember where it is. Let's write something down. And the other thing is that when we're in the thick of it, sometimes we can't even remember to ask for help. And we need help, ongoing help, but in it, asking for help, reaching out, we as a nation find that difficult. And we've got a whole lot of reasons for that. But asking for help, there are a lot of people on this call today who will need help, and it is fine. And Sarah will be here to say that it is fine. But asking for help could be just, I need help understanding what it is that I'm supposed to do. You might ask for help to say, I know that Dee, who's a member of Groove, her friend lost a house. So Dee yesterday, rather than, she was trying to do everything for work, but she was also recovering a loved one's belongings from a house that had had a slip. We as a community can step up, and it's okay to ask your friends right now. It's an emergency. Letting go of the things that you can't control. You know, we've got a whole lot of past trauma around being in a state of emergency because of 3 years of COVID and other things. Christchurch, there are lots of reasons why we might go back in time. Our brains might start catastrophizing, because that's what the brain does. So focusing on what you can control. We can't control the weather, unfortunately, but what we can do is have a plan. So focusing on what you can control when we're in a state of emergency is the moment that your brain goes, what about Christchurch? Remember this. When is the rain going to stop? Is this forever? Is it going to be grey forever? Remind yourself that you've got no control over that. One, it's very unlikely it's not going to be forever, but your brain will think it is. So go back to where you can control. And the last thing I want to say around walk is keep connected, keep in touch. Because one of the things that we do in an emergency is we worry about others. And what happens is you're worrying about your workmates, your friends. It's not just you. What you can't see, the brain is making up. So keep in touch, because it gives you perspective. Talking to your neighbours who are going through the same sorts of things, really important, but also keeping in touch with wider people that uplift you in this time. So it's asking for help and keeping in touch. And so those are the sort of fundamentals while you're in the midst of it. And then we'll talk about how you go on and where we all are, because we've all had various ways of this affecting us.
So walk, write it down, ask for help, let go.
Let go of the things you can't control.
Can't control it. I'm writing this down myself. Keep in touch.
Keep in touch.
Thank you, Fiona. So Sarah, what do you like? I was thinking about asking for help, me personally. I did it with my own mental health, right? And it was the hardest thing I ever did. But does pride come into it when you've lost things? And
massively.
You see someone who's very, very proud but lost everything, how are you dealing with the emotional side, and what advice would you give to people that might need that little bit of extra help?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really big thing as well, especially for Kiwis. We don't like to ask people for help. We don't want to tell people that we're in pain or we're suffering or we're depressed or we're lonely. We just seem to have this culture where we don't reach out as much as we should. And I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. I mean, I had depression for years, like bad depression, and I didn't tell anybody. And I think we just don't ask for help. And I think especially when we have people needing food and the essentials, there's a bit of shame around that for so many people that they feel like it's embarrassing, or it's a loss of pride to ask for essentials. And I think right now especially, we've just got to do it. But we also have to create a culture where it's actually okay to do it. There's no shame and there's no embarrassment around it, and we have this really open culture where we can just say, hey Fiona, what do you need? Cool, I've got it, here we go. And that's this, back and forth, and that's how it should be. But this week we've had a lot of people who might not have actually needed help a couple of weeks ago and have reached out via all different methods and said, hey look, I've never done this before, but do you have any duvets? And so I think we've just been doing what we can. But the thing that's been heaviest on my mind this week is that it's always the communities worldwide and whānau that need this the least. And when the natural disaster occurs, it's the ones that are affected the most. And I think that's something really, really important that we all need to keep in our minds all the time, is that the ones that this is really going to affect is the people who can't bounce back as quickly. Not everyone has insurance, you know?
Exactly. And I think that, how do you put someone at peace, Sarah? How do you make someone feel really good when they do ask for help and they might be bristling a wee bit? Because I think things are important to learn that, I say that love is something that you should give, but expect nothing back in return. The day you do is the day it's going to bite you. So how do you put people at ease that ask and you can see they need help?
JK, I'm a hugger. So if you don't want to hug, don't come near me, because I'm just going to hug you. I hug everybody. And like where I'm at the moment is the community hub that we run from. And at Christmas time, we have the Christmas Joy Store. And so last Christmas, we provided 3 presents for 10,700 children. And so you've got a lot of people going, no, hang on, is this for me? New toys for me? No, I can't have it. And I will, and in this situation as well, people needing food and clothing and bedding, and they're like, oh no, but I just hug people and we just put our hands on there if they don't mind, and just say it's okay, it's okay, this is why we're here. And I think if we all just have the belief, and we just all operate with if we have more to share, then we share with those who don't. And I think I hug people all the time.
Beautiful. Learnings from the Christchurch earthquake, and I know that we shouldn't compare disasters, but I remember going down to Christchurch, and I went into a woman's house. She was still living in the house, not young, and I said, I won't swear, you got a hole in your roof and there's rain coming through it. She went, yeah, but I need to, people are worse off than me, right? And I'm going, yeah, but you've got a hole in your roof and there's rain pissing through it. You know what I mean? So Fiona, how do people just actually make peace with it's shit at the moment? Like, my floor's wet, I need new carpet, I don't know what to do next. How do people sort of deal with that?
I mean, perspective is a really good thing. If you are able to say, it can be helpful, not harmful. It can be helpful to say, look, I'm in this situation, but it could be worse. For many people who are going through very, very difficult times, so I'm thinking of some of the most difficult things that you can think of. Often people are more can cope with it better when they go, but it's not as bad as this. So that's not a terrible strategy. But what can happen is that then we do this thing where we put up with stuff we shouldn't put up with, or we don't make a change because we don't feel entitled. And that's the issue. I think understanding that you are worthy, understanding that you are entitled to, we talked about the Maslow hierarchy of needs just before, that human beings have essentially a right to shelter, a right to be able to have access to nutritional food, to be able to afford it. And often what happens is that if you look around and you say there are a lot of people that are worse off than me, and you are still really struggling, and often the people that say this are really going through stuff, as a society, what happens is we can put up with a whole lot of crap. So what we need to sort of step back and say as a society as well, which is hard because that's a really nebulous concept, society. What does that mean? I think as human beings, we say, what do we want for our country? What do we want? And Sarah, I'd love you to talk a little bit about this, about what you see. But, you know, you seem to be picking up the pieces a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I think maybe the learnings from Christchurch are some things around resilience, which is, you know, these things happen. It's not because you're good or bad. Sometimes when bad things happen to you, we go to this, I've been good all my life. Why has this happened to me? Or I must have done something wrong, without understanding that, you know, life sometimes happens and it's absolutely crap. And it's not about something that you did. But then it's about, where do we go from here? And if we as a society are not allowing people to get their basic needs met, and that we are relying on charitable organisations like yours to lift people up, then maybe what we're doing it wrong. So what do you say to that in terms of where would you like to see us in the learnings from Christchurch, or the learnings right now from where you are having to pick up, I think, a lot of the social suffering that's going on?
I think, you know, we're just one of many, many charities and community groups. And I've just seen so many individuals rallying around and doing so many things for whānau. But I think we're just one of the many, right? And the system itself is fundamentally flawed. And I think if you work in any capacity, you're a charity or a social worker, or you're a teacher, you know that that's just not set up for everybody to succeed. And there is so many things I could say about that, and we could go on for hours and hours, but I won't. But I think what Christchurch has shown us, and there were floods last year, we forget, and it took people 5 months to get back into their homes. I was talking to a friend of mine, Bernie, this morning, who runs Give a Kid a Blanket. His charity is incredible. They just provide, you know, all sorts of essentials for people. And he was saying some of the families that they supported last year, it took them 5 months to get back into a home. And we know that that's going to happen again this year, but en masse. Why is it now Thursday and we don't have increased benefits? We don't have, where are the people? Where are the leaders? Where's all the information in one succinct place of what you can access, what you can get? Why are people being declined from WINS? And I've got some stories from this week that just make me so angry. Like, we had a mum in yesterday crying, asking for bedding, declined from WINS. So we loaded her up and the kids with bedding and lots of food. And why are people being declined for basic things? Or they're getting these extra payments, but it's just enough for 2 duvets, or it's just enough to feed the family for 3 days, so there's nothing left for 8 kids for bedding. Like, just basic fundamental things we are getting very, very, very wrong. And I think Dave Latelli says it best. There's from BBM, and he's just doing incredible things for the community in South Auckland. But the solution is a mixture of government, community, and businesses all rallying together to you know, do what's needed for people. But the system itself and how people have access to the very basics needs to change. And we can see that it breaks down so quickly in situations like this. State of emergency not declared till 11 p.m. on Friday night, when people are up to their necks in water.
Yeah, I
What?
think I don't. I've got some opinions, and we probably shouldn't talk about it on this
Yeah.
particular webinar. We'll probably get in trouble. But who was the muppet that centralised everything? Mental health needs to go back to the community. So does policing. So does community support, which is what you run. But anyway, that's political.
That's another situation.
That's
another
another
day.
session, and I'm really happy to have that, because I think what we're seeing around the world, and I'll leave my political opinions right there, is we're seeing a breakdown in people not trusting, because that beautiful woman that came to you this morning, it seems that there'll be 2% of probably 1% of the population will try and rip it off. The other 99% are genuine. And we seem to be worried about the 1%. Let the 1% go. Let's look after the 99%. But what I want to talk to you both about, and I'll start with you, Fiona, and it was interesting because I did a mental health talk this morning. I was talking about post-traumatic, right? So you would have heard about it, especially for our beautiful soldiers and people that try and protect us, our firemen. Our police can suffer from moments. But will post-traumatic be part of the future? So I'm thinking about how people can protect, how they can put some mental money in their wallet for 2 weeks down the track when the survival mode's gone and they're just crashing, or the floods up to your neck keep flooding back as thoughts. So is post-traumatic something that people will experience, could experience, and how do they deal with it? And what should they do?
Yep, absolutely, because of the way that the amygdala works. So if you think about the fact that the part of the brain that keeps us safe is on lookout all the time and will respond to a flood and emergency, it's designed for that. Suddenly you're in fight or flight mode, and yeah, your brain might be a bit fuzzy, but actually you're suddenly Superwoman or Superman. You can do all these things because you're coping with the acute stage of a response. And that's brilliant, because we need that. You need to suddenly be able to, I don't think Dee slept yesterday. She was doing so much. She's out in Tarangi. There's no power. She's got friends who've lost her house. And she is just working until she drops. But what unfortunately happens is the amygdala is also triggered by memories. And so that is why when we get the emergency alert on the phone, little kids are saying, are we in lockdown? Are we going back to lockdown? And you get a response of, you don't even know what it is, a dread within you. And that's because of what that represents. So the amygdala deals with memories as though things are happening right now, because the amygdala doesn't have any sense of context. So if you haven't processed what you've gone through, if you haven't got the tools in your tool belt to be able to manage the stress now and let go of it, what can happen is that it just forms in your body. And if you have a lot of trauma in your past, then you can relive things over and over again. So what are the protective things there? One is, so that's when we get to our TALK acronym. And our TALK acronym is, we start with taking slow, deep breaths all the way through. Now, I know it sounds simple. We talk about breathing a lot. But the reality is that when you're learning how to breathe from the belly and you start to do it as default, what it does is it improves communication between the part of your brain that knows that it's not an emergency, the reflective brain, and the part of the brain that thinks it always is. So we need communication between those two pathways. Part of being in fight or flight requires you to be breathing up here. So actually doing this, and it feels like such a simple thing, but if you can do that through an emergency, and as we get out the other side, what you're actually doing is helping the communication between your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala. So taking slow, deep breaths, and that often means taking a break while you're in it. And then acknowledging your feelings. The reason why traumatic stuff can resurface is at the time you don't even know how you feel. Often we're working so hard. Little kids who have traumatic responses sometimes don't have the language for the emotions that they're going through, because either they're not encouraged or they don't know yet. But if you can say right now, if you're in the thick of it, or you're just emerging, if you can go for a walk and say, I'm feeling really upset, or I'm feeling a little nervous, or what am I feeling? What is that feeling? I think I feel angry. If you can notice how you feel, we know that that helps you process emotions, and you're more likely to have PTSD if you've spent that time where you just are going and going and going and you are not processing your emotions, which is absolutely the way the brain is wired for us, unfortunately. And then L of the talk is look for those small good things, because your brain has to be reminded that there are still hopeful things, because we have a negativity bias. It's kept us alive. Our brains basically are looking for all the threats in the environment, and we remember that. And why do we remember it? Because it will keep us safe for next time. So when we hear the bells on the phone, our brain is going back to COVID because that's our recent trauma. And unfortunately for us, it then starts you on that spiral of looking for all the negative stuff so that you can keep your family and you safe. It's just the way that we're wired. So if we can look for small good things in the day, and it can be really tiny, it could be just the sound of JK's voice. Does it for me? It's a small good thing in my day. It could be the walk that you have with your dog. It truly is. And sometimes you can say it out loud, like, just what have I noticed? Or write it down. It's a way of reminding your brain that good things still happen. That is really protective. But also when you're going through uncertainty, if you can name concrete things that are good, like my chair is comfortable. When you're in a state of uncertainty, the brain is feeling always in fight or flight. If you can remind the brain that there are still things that are certain, it kind of reminds the brain that, oh yeah, there's hope and there's certainty still there. So look for small good things. And the last thing that can be really protective is know your limits. One of the things that happens is, particularly in the aftermath of tragedy or crisis, is you just go and go and go. And Sarah, I'm probably looking at you, is knowing your limits, being able to take a rest, sleep, refuel, because if you go and go and go and go, you don't have the resources to maintain it. And that's when you're tired, you're fatigued, you're exhausted, and you just do not have the topping up capacity, or you haven't topped up so you can keep going. So that is take slow, deep breaths, acknowledge your feelings, look for small good things, and know your limits in the aftermath, and that can be really protective.
So good. Sarah, what do you see? What do you see in the community? You would have seen some double ups. You would have seen people visit you last year, through COVID, through bad times, and then you've probably seen repeated people coming back. Tell me the strengths practically that you see in some of the amazing people that are coming in and reaching out for help and asking for help and then bouncing back often. So what do you see in them that you could share with people that we might be able to?
What I love the most is when people do reach out, and when community partners reach out for their families. It's that people do, they can advocate for themselves. And, I don't mind if people need support for a year or two or whatever. Like, it's, we're just resource givers, right? That's not I'm not qualified. I'm not a social worker. So we just provide the resource. But I think, actually, sorry, just one thing that I was just thinking about when you were talking, Fiona. Sorry, I tangents. I told you I do this. When you were saying, the response from the civil defence emergency, the siren, oh my goodness, even you talking about it made me feel anxious. And it does. And I feel like, so many people that work in the community, I mean, Ali and I and Dave and our team, to a really small portion of what social workers and police and people are on the ground feel, you do feel like you're in this constant state of, fight or flight, and you do feel constantly anxious. And if we feel like this, imagine what it's like having your house, completely flooded, and you're having to go and stay in an evacuation center or in a hall or something like that. And yeah, sorry, what was the question again?
I can't remember. So I do love a tangent.
Sorry, I just couldn't stop thinking. I started to feel anxious thinking about that siren.
No, it's beautiful. And I was wondering what qualities you see in the people that have been bashed around the head with flooding, with possibly poverty. What sort of traits are you seeing that you think, wow, we all need a little bit of that?
Oh my goodness, yeah. So even the people who don't have a lot are the biggest givers. And what I love the most about some of the people that we see and the communities that we're in, people will give you their last, and even if they don't have much, they share the afar around everybody, people just take care of their communities. And I think it's really beautiful to see. And we work with a independent, the largest independent actually women's refuge community, and we have worked with them for 10 years, and we just get food in and out and resources and Christmas presents and all the things needed. And, you know, in a crisis, their food warehouse is pumping out 400 food boxes, sometimes more, every day. Sorry if it's too noisy, pumping out food boxes in the warehouse. And so we're just providing food so the food boxes can go out. And they might not have enough that day for their immediate community, but they're getting requests left, right and centre from all other communities all over. Kia ora. Oh, sorry, well, Chloe is here today. So fantastic. We have had her come in, and that's wonderful. And so, you know, they're getting requests from all over the place, you know, still needing more and more resource, and they're just sharing. And so I think in situations like this, the amount of, you know, community spirit and people sharing is just amazing. Yeah, did that answer the question?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
It's a really good question, because I think this is something that I felt a little bit of. From Liz, thank you for acknowledging your own anxiety. I'm better off than most of my neighbours, but I still feel stressed. Is this normal?
Yeah, absolutely.
We all do.
I mean, the amygdala doesn't go, hey, what's going on in the rest of the world? One of the most unhelpful things to do for somebody who's under stress is say, look around and see people who are worse off than you, because the truth is there's always going to be somebody that's worse off than you, and there's going to be a whole lot of people that are better off than you, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, because that's just life. And that's not how the brain responds. It's also good to go, well, I'm stressed and I need strategies to deal with it, and I can still look for my silver linings and go, yeah, look, I've got this and I can help and give back. But to deny the anxiety and feel guilty, because I think that we talked about that a little bit this morning, was the idea that I might feel I'm anxious and I feel guilty because I'm better off than others. Please don't feel like that. It's normal to feel anxious for all the reasons we've talked about. The fact that this is reminding us of another event, the fact that weather is unpredictable. So the brain is going to be on edge because we actually don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So it is normal to feel anxious. It's normal to feel overwhelmed. And sometimes it can happen because of a lot of stuff that's gone on before. This might be just a triggering event. But I would defy anyone not to feel anxious right now in Auckland, because it's, you know, you're worrying about workmates. You're probably concerned about children. You're thinking about maybe this is going to happen again. All of those thoughts are really normal. So we just want you to have strategies. One, let's all just admit that we're going to feel stressed because it's really stressful. And a stress response is being a human being, and it is normal to have a stress response. I think a lot of us feel either guilty or they feel like, I'm worried that I've got a stress response. I would say if you didn't have a stress response, that might be something else. My husband tells me he's not stressed, so that's another story. He's not stressed, but the rest of Auckland is. But he was down very early in the morning at 5 o'clock. He's not stressed, but he's got his light out. He's under the house creating a pump. So we all have our coping mechanisms. And I guess that's the other thing, is what helps to top you up. If you are feeling stressed right now, and even if you're in the midst of it, think about that one thing that helps you top you up and really double down on it. So Sarah, what are you doing to top up? Because I mean, you're in the midst of it. So what about you? What are you doing right now to make sure that you don't burn out?
Yeah, that's a really good thing. And good thing to ask, because I mean, I did experience major burnout with COVID, the 5 months of lockdown we had. It was massive for us. And then going into the next year, I started the year, and it took me till May, I think, before I started feeling like I could do my job again, before I could be a mum again. And it was, you know, quite a long period of time of having like an empty tank. And so now I'm just making sure that we are putting some boundaries in place for ourselves. We're closing at 4 o'clock every day. So we're closing at 4, and then we're getting a lot of our deliveries done during the day, and we are getting more people this time. So when people reach out to us and say, I want to help, I want to volunteer, I've got a truck, I've got this. Normally we'd be, you know, we've got processes for volunteers and things like that. But now we're like, you know what, come down and help. People are poking their heads into the hub and going, can you help? Yep, come in. You know, so we're doing that, which is meaning that we're able to be home for our own families. I'm having dinner with my son. I'm trying to get to bed after doing all my emails and admin by 10 o'clock, and putting some boundaries in place, and like we can help, and we can help this much, but I can't burn out again, and I can't take till May and to feel better again this time. And what you said before about finding the good things in the day, and that's what we do. We find the joy in every day. And I think I said this to you before, but like for me, that joy of being able to provide resources for people is what keeps us going. But just making sure we look for the good things in every day. And there's something really special about getting a group of like-minded people together in a community, all working towards the same goal, and just giving as much as we can to other people so other people can have what they need. There's something about that, and that does fill you up a lot.
We need you to look after yourself, Sarah. So you've got a problem.
I am actually really bad at that, to be honest. I am bad at that, and I do come last all the time, and it is a thing. And it's the same for, I think, any kind of community worker or anyone that works in this field. I think you do just naturally put yourself last. And I'm 42 and I am not getting any younger, so I need to start.
Please look after yourself.
I see it's not just Auckland. We understand that.
Yeah.
This is a global webinar for our beautiful country. I was in Te Aroha before Christmas, and they had flooding there. I think what we're experiencing is these climate things that are affecting us all. You know, if it's a Christchurch earthquake, if it's an Auckland flood, if it's a Te Aroha flood, if it's a river overflowing on the west coast of New Zealand. I think what we're talking about today is how we can mentally get through these moments and how we can help with our community. I think Natalie's asked a really good question, because how do you two questions, one for you, Fiona, one for you, Sarah. How do you deal with the guilt if your house isn't intact and the next house is trashed? So is there a guilt thing, and how do you deal with that? I'll let you answer that probably, Fiona. You could probably answer it too, because you've seen it come through, Sarah. So maybe both of you have a crack at how you deal with the guilt or the what ifs, you know?
It's what the brain does. We do a lot of those what ifs, and that's why it's always good to focus on what you can control and not go into the what ifs. But also there's a little bit of going, and it's okay to be grateful, you know, to sit there and go, oh my goodness, we are so lucky. I'm grateful right now. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's only a problem if an action is hurting or harming. So sometimes something can be really, not hurting or harmful. It can be helping or harming. They both don't do the hurting and harming. If it's helpful to you right now to kind of go, I feel really grateful. It's okay to be grateful. It's okay to go, look, I can look at the neighbours and feel just a sense of gratitude right now that that's not me. And also I'm going to either help others, or I'm going to understand that, they're for the grace of God stuff. But the what ifs are not helpful, because the what ifs, often we get stuck in there and that can create anxiety. So that's what I mean. Is it helping or harming? Gratitude going, it's okay to go, I just feel so lucky right now that this wasn't me. And I think we've done a lot of that in our house, going, my niece's house was flooded and we sent the pump that the engineer went downstairs at 5 a.m, because he's never anxious, creating the pump. We did not need it, but our niece needed it. And understanding that we're all in different situations here. So that's good. I'm grateful for that. If I spend a whole lot of time imagining the disaster that could have been, and that puts me in a lot of anxiety around that, that is not helpful. So then I'd have to go, you know what, that hasn't happened. You've got to remind your brain that that's not what happened. And so you're going to be living in the moment. And the good thing about those breathing exercises is that brings you into the present, reminding yourself of where you are, because the brain will go to the what ifs. So having the strategies to be in the moment, having the strategies to focus on what you can control are the most excellent things to do in a crisis, because that's normal. It is normal to suddenly just go off. What about you, Sarah? What are you seeing?
Sorry, I was having problems there. And I just was thinking about that. For me, I acknowledge that I'm grateful that it didn't happen to us, and at 10 o'clock on Friday night, 9 o'clock or around that, we get a call from one of my really good friends whose home was flooding. And without question, Dave, my husband, just got up and went and was using wheelie bins to get water out of their home because there was nothing else. And I did have a moment of, oh, I'm glad we live on a hill, but then I acknowledge that, and it's okay to feel, grateful and good for what you've got. That's wonderful. And then that gratitude you can then use to spur you into action for other people, and I think for me, I was able to use that gratitude to go, right, what can I do to help? How can I make it better for other people? And so use it as a driver.
And I know that Chloe's turned up to say hi, which is really
cool,
awesome. So I'm sure you'll sit down with her. She's a really caring person. But I'm now going to baptise you Prime Minister of New Zealand for the next 3 days. I want to know from you, Prime Minister Auntie Sarah, why aren't we ready for this shit? And you're seeing it too much. So what do we need to do as a community or a government or a local body government? What do we need to do to prepare for moments like these so that we cope better and we're not getting these headlines of all the dumb shit that's going on around us?
Look, I'm not qualified by any stretch of the imagination to give an adequate response there. I'm just someone in a hub giving people food, right? I'm not qualified in that way. But I think if it were me, if it was me, I would arm the people already doing the work with more resource to do the work while we fix the systems. And I think there's so much I could talk about in terms of how this, I guess when I talk about the system, the mental health system, the health system, the, the social development, everything around how Kiwis live their lives. I think if we spent some more time making things a bit more equitable for Kiwis and for the ones who are living in poverty, or the ones that have different health outcomes or different education needs. And I think if we spent some more time making things a bit more equitable, then when disasters like this do happen, we don't see such devastation for communities that don't need this devastation. I think if you go and spend any time at these evacuation centres and you see the makeup of them, and you see a school down the road is taking care of some Muslim refugees who don't yet qualify for visas and funding from MSD. Yeah. How is that? How are we accepting people into the country? How are people living here that don't, and they're spending 9 months waiting for an emergency visa to get adequate funding from the government to feed themselves? How is that happening? If it was me, I'm not going to use this word, but I will use this word. I'm a socialist, so like for me, I would arm the people doing the work with more resources, and I would just make things a bit more equitable for people, so people aren't as hit as badly as they are. And so many people don't have insurance. They're renting. I've heard some stories about some landlords this week not doing the bare minimum for people living with knee deep in water, so I think, sorry, I ranted, didn't I, Fiona?
No, you did not at all. One of the things that I was going to, I think we've lost JK for a minute, so that means I could be political and our board might tell me off. No, they won't. I'm joking, everyone. It's a joke. I think that there's some things there about who's hit the most.
Yeah.
And we see there's a reason why the people that are hit the most sometimes is they're living on reclaimed land, or so that they're more vulnerable. We have to do something with this is a predictable situation. I mean, yes, it's unprecedented, but there's some things about looking and being realistic about what might happen over the next little while. And the other thing is that the thing about policy and politics is a 3-year cycle makes it really hard to plan for things over the long term. And so that makes it difficult. So if it was up to me, Sarah, I would change that kind of cycle around the idea of that we plan for the next 3 years, not for the next 20 years. So the equity in planning, and it's hard. We are a small country. We are a small country, and it's easier if you're in a bigger country sometimes in terms of the amount of money that you might have. So that's a realistic thing to think about. But it's also, who do we want to be? And how do we want to live, all of us? And yeah, I better not go on more of a tangent. I might, but what I would say is that we sometimes should look around and see how can we be the good neighbours. And being the good neighbours means that sometimes even when it doesn't affect us, because I think you said something to me before about people are quite good in the moment, but then they go back to their lives and other people are left to carry on with the stress. It's like grief. When you've lost somebody, people can be good in this first 2 weeks, but after that they go back to their lives. When you have loss, we're often very good at stepping up in the moment, but people who are going through grief or loss, it can go on for months and months and months. So then you have to think, let's be realistic about how we support people genuinely. And if we genuinely want to help, we have to understand that it's not just when it's in the newspapers, it's not just when it's front of mind. These things go on for a bit longer than we think.
Sorry about that, Tim. I don't know what happened there, but I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sarah, you can carry on.
I was just going to say, yeah, this will go on for a long time. And if, if we don't put the better systems in place now to deal with it, even just bringing state of emergencies forward so we can get some sandbags out there, if we don't fix those kinds of systems now and have government funded or empower other community organizations to be ready for these sorts of situations, so we can have evacuation centers, we can have things, resources, pallets of food ready to go, we can have these systems in place. I mean, for example, we're a small charity. We now have an emergency crisis management plan and policy. So next time this happens, we don't go, oh God, what are we going to do? How much funding have we got to use? Where are we going to get money from? Oh no, I need to put a newsletter out to try and get 50 grand to feed some people. We're not going to do that next time. We've got a plan in place. We've got a policy that we can just push play on and use that amount of funding. We call these people, we open the hub at this time, we call these volunteers. If we can do that as a really, really small charity, why can't the council anyways? but if we can put those systems in place.
Tell me the 3 things you need in the next little while, Sarah, for us to try and help people that are listening. What are the 3 things that you would like?
Look, I'm always going to say first money, because money gives freedom. It means that when social workers come to us and go, I need 2 car seats because a car's been underwater and these parents can't transport their children anymore, we can buy 2 car seats, because those are things that don't get donated. We need to provide children with uniforms and stationery and all sorts of things to go back to school that they weren't able to have. We need food, we need toiletries, cleaning products, nappies, we need all those day-to-day essentials that you and I probably just take for granted using. I mean, I could show everyone, but our hub is, it's got some food in the food bank at the moment, but it goes in and out quite quickly. I mean, we've done 8 pallets this morning, 800 chickens. We've had 3 truckloads and vans going of food and essentials out to the community, but we need to do it again at 4 o'clock. So it's constant, and I think it will be like this for a while.
Awesome. Yeah. People, if you can give, be generous. The 3 things mentally you've spoken about, walk and talk, which is awesome. Fiona, write down, okay to ask for help, let go, like don't hang on to stuff, keep in touch, and talk. Take a deep breath. I'm talking to you now, Sarah. Take a deep breath, take some time for you. Yeah. Acknowledge your feeling, look for the good things, even though it might be just a cup of tea or a cup of coffee like I do, and know your limits. What advice can you give to people moving forward around their emotions? What might be some of the signs that they need to implement walk and talk?
Yeah, I think a lot of people right now are expressing how tired they are. And notwithstanding that we've just gone through an extreme weather event throughout New Zealand and in Australia, because we know that you have extreme weather events all the time, is that the grey weather does not help us because we can't get vitamin D to produce serotonin. So there's a lot of people, and we were tired at the end of last year. So one of the things that's really important is that you're just really kind to yourself. I've seen some comments here, people saying, I feel anxious, but I'm not as impacted as other people. But I want you to go, look, that's irrelevant, really. I mean, if you've got the resources to help, please help. But also that it's how you feel is how you feel. So I want you to remind yourself that it's just a lot of stuff coming at us right now. And so it's normal to be feeling exhausted. And it's the beginning of the year. We didn't want to feel exhausted and we didn't have a break because of the weather. So even if it's just be kind to yourself, go, I know I normally feel that I have more energy at the beginning of this year and I don't. That's okay. Of course you don't. And also keeping in touch with the people that uplift you. So be kind to yourself, and that really double down on the keep in touch stuff, because it just makes a difference. Talking to someone helps us process our emotions. Sarah is having people on her couch who are talking about the stuff and they're processing, and that's already a gift. Talk to each other. Go for a walk with the people that you love and spend time together. And interestingly, what that does is top up the neurotransmitters, the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, particularly if you're outside. We've got a little bit of sunlight today, and that can really help. Just go easy on yourself. And if you are needing to talk, if you are right now actually feeling like you can't share with a friend, you don't feel able to, call 1737, call or text 1737. It is available 24/7. It is free. It is your access to counsellors. So if you can't and you need to talk to someone, please call or text 1737. It could be 2 a.m. in the morning, and that's okay.
It's been amazing, people. And Sarah, what I'm going to do, this was supposed to last an hour, but we have some rituals at Groove where we don't fill the whole hour. So for everyone listening, thank you for joining. But I don't want you to turn off this and get up, Sarah, and go and talk to everyone. I want you to take 5 minutes for you. Go to the toilet if you need to, have a breath, go outside and smell the roses. And anyone who's listening, just take the next 5 minutes to yourself. Reflect what we've been talking about. I think, I talk about my AAA battery. Firstly, awareness around what's bugging you and upsetting you, acknowledge it, and then act on it. And do the simple things. Do one thing, do something simple. So take the next 5 minutes, people. It's been a real honor for me to be here. Thank you on behalf of Groove, Sarah, for everything you do for our community. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Don't forget to say that to yourself every night as well, because you are, and that's important. We call it congratulations to me. Sometimes we get to think about all the great things that we do.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's
congratulations to me. You got to do that every night because you're amazing, and don't forget to take time to think about that. And you know that I think you're amazing, Fiona, so I don't have to tell you too much, but
right back at you.
Amazing.
Into our amazing Groove community. Look at them all. Take that 5 minutes. So much love, Sarah. JK, you're a legend always. Bye, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you.